Hi, everybody. It's Jessica Stone at Stansberry Research. I'm having a conversation with two of our healthcare experts today about what's going on with drug prices. There seems to be a bit of a war between the White House and the drug industry. Take a listen to what the president had to say last month as he signed 4 executive orders to lower drug prices.
Previous administrations did nothing, absolutely nothing, as drug lobbyists, special interests in foreign countries freely ripped off our citizens. Therefore, today I'm signing 4 sweeping executive orders that will lead to massive reduction in drug costs. Massive. The 4 orders I'm signing today will completely restructure the prescription drug market in terms of pricing and everything else to make these medications affordable and accessible for all Americans.
Joining me now to discuss is John Engel, editor of Stansberry Innovations and a former bench scientist. And I'm also joined by Tom Carroll, one of our other resident healthcare experts, editor of Cannabis Capitalist. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. Tom, you've made some great calls on healthcare investments. Talk to me about what these executive orders mean for investors.
It's great because the Trump administration recognizes there's a problem in U.S. healthcare, right? So he's doing this at the 11th hour to really drive home the fact that there's a problem. So recognition of a problem, very good. Second point, and very interestingly, he is actually endorsing government-run single-payer systems.
Wait a minute. That doesn't sound like a Republican, much less a Trump thing to say. What's going on?
Right, not at all. And I think that's what makes it so interesting, right? So these orders basically call for drug reimportation from other countries, as well as benchmarking high-priced drugs in Medicare to a basket of other economically similar countries that are out there. So like it or not, he is endorsing a central tenet of single-payer systems, which is price setting, right? The government sets a price, and the vendors must pay that price if they want to participate. He's endorsing big, European government-run healthcare.
Socialized medicine, which is something the Pfizer CEO said right after the announcement, was like, hey, this is socialized medicine. This is not what you want.
Right. And then the third thing I'd say as it relates to investors is, regardless of who wins in November, healthcare is going to be front and center for the next few years, right? Because we've got a problem. Even last year before COVID hit, polls were showing healthcare as being basically the leading issue going into the 2020 election. And now with COVID, our number one asset is absolutely under attack.
John, I want to go to you now. Of course, you make a lot of recommendations on pharma, on biotech, and have personal experience with drug trials, something I've talked to you about. What are your thoughts about how controlling drug prices affects the stock or group of stocks? And how would you suggest that investors think about those things given that?
Sure. So let's look at this from the lens of a scientist. So one of the things that I think most politicians fail to understand is the drug development process, the bare bones bench work that needs to be done. And that's not exactly their fault. It really is a complicated process. So let's talk about a few things to consider. First is, on average, it costs about $1 billion to bring a new drug to market. And less than 15% of the drugs tested in clinic actually gain approval. Those aren't very good success rates, of course, and drug developers need to recoup some of those costs. So they do this by adding the failed drugs to the sticker price of already approved ones. The second thing to consider is that politicians really, if they wanted to make some good progress in the drug pricing war, they might consider first doing things regarding drug regulation. Of course, that's a government responsibility, so it falls within their wheelhouse. I guess my point is we need to be careful about wildly slashing drug prices because this could inevitably stifle innovation. The U.S. biotechnology industry is the leading developer of global medicines, period. If we want to keep it that way, I think we need to approach the problem rationally. My advice to investors would be not to pour all of your money into biotech right now. If you want to invest in the life sciences, I would consider going after some of the picks and shovels plays, companies like Thermo Fisher or Agilent Technologies, for instance.
All of the vaccines in particular during this pandemic, their stocks are through the roof. And a lot of it is because there's all this public attention and public money going into these vaccines and therapeutics. So how should investors think about that? I mean, that's another factor, right, in how to invest in these companies.
Some of the big pharma companies like AstraZeneca and Pfizer have publicly announced that they're not going to charge anything above cost for their COVID-19 vaccines. Other companies like Moderna have outlined plans to make a profit. COVID-19 vaccines are going to play a minimal role in the drug pricing debate we've talked about so far.
Okay.
I think most politicians are going after, some of the high-priced cancer drugs that can sell for upwards of $200,000 per regimen. And they'll probably be going after MS drugs that sell for $80,000 per year.
Tom, what about you? What are you thinking about in terms of stocks that you're watching as a result of what's going on with this drug price war?
Digital healthcare. And as we get close to the election, we've had a number of trade opportunities in healthcare already that we've written about. And as we get closer to the election and perhaps healthcare reform comes back into the mix, I kind of want to tread lightly across basically all these spaces except for digital healthcare. And I'll point out one stock that's been very interesting this year, and I think you're going to see a lot more like it. Teladoc, right, is a company that's been around for about 17 years. It has been a company developing telemedicine and remote patient monitoring types of applications. And the pandemic this year has basically accelerated the need for all of these products. And in the last 10 years, we've seen, billions and billions of dollars flow into these types of disruptive healthcare companies that are going to be either IPOing or selling to other companies that are already publicly traded. So we need to know about them. So Teladoc is up 160% year to date. It's a very expensive stock. It's probably going to keep seeing, upside based on new adoption as we go into the next few years. But digital healthcare, kind of a new space within healthcare investing that I think is going to take a much bigger role within the sector broadly.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard the CEO of Ring Central, which we use to talk to folks to secure our Zoom calls, and interviewed the other day, and he said, yeah, we've got all these applications in schools, but also in healthcare. So that's clearly an area to watch. Well, our thanks to you both for taking a look at the upside of the drug price wars in terms of investing. And if you would like to see much more content just like this from Tom or from John, please hover over your screen. We'll give you a link to subscribe to their products individually. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.